with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is...
I was afraid, I didn't know what to do. A lot of us be coming in it.
And what I'll say was amazing to me was...
Season 2, welcome back to the L3 Perspective. My name is Glenn Davis. As you know, I'm sitting here with my co-host, Cameron Macias.
Coach Cam.
L3 Perspective, as you know, we talk about life, love, leadership.
As we've talked about in the past, like, love, share, subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Because at the end of the day, we do it for you guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Season 2 of the L3 Perspective, where we talk about life, love, leadership. I'm Glenn Davis. I'm here with my co-host, Cameron Macias.
Hey, Coach Cam.
And again, just want to thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate the support, appreciate the comments, appreciate the feedback. With that being said, I'm going to toss it over to Cam, and then we'll jump into our special guest today. Go ahead, Cam, talk to him.
Yes, sir. As you guys already know, like, love, share, subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. At the end of the day, we do it for y'all. So if we don't know what you're digging, then we don't know who to bring on the show. So, G, let's introduce our guest. We have an additional guest, too, so you're going to have to introduce yourself. but let's start with Alyssa, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, super excited. So, 2 special guests from the East Coast.
Hey,
they have the East Coast vibe from New York, right? Recently met Alyssa in Sacramento, California at ModelCon 2024. Shout out to Chris for hosting that beautiful, amazing event. Alyssa, background, you're a New York model.
Yeah.
Right? Podcast host.
Yes.
And have a deep love for wellness and mindset.
Yes.
Right? And so definitely look forward to kind of connecting with you today and diving and breaking that down, because there's a lot of value that can be had to our listeners just in those realms, right? We have inspiring models. We have folks that are looking to level up their mindset. And so, yeah, we'll dive into that.
I'm excited.
I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Anthony today, right?
Pleasure.
Talk about being a great man, not you, but 100%. Just in general, talking about being a great man, great supporter. You talking about a visionary behind a visionary. We look forward to connecting with you as well today, Anthony.
I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. So, ModelCon 20.
Yes.
So we're going to start. We're at the beginning of our meeting.
Of course.
So how did you hear about it? Because I know Chris is going to watch this just for that fact alone. How did you hear about it? And like, what really inspires you to make that trek from New York all the way to California?
Sure. So I've always been someone who just goes with my intuition. And I'm going to start from the beginning, because about 2023, so a year ago, I did a tryout to do Miss New York.
Okay.
Like the pageant system for Miss USA, Miss Universe. By the way, I just enjoyed the experience itself, because it was like super, like I had to just become a better person to do it. To that whole entire journey is all about mindset, having to believe in yourself, having to communicate, why you should be the one to represent an entire state, right, and then an entire country, and then the entire universe, if you're thinking about the title of it.
Yeah.
And then I worked with Luciera. So she was one of the main speakers at ModelCon. And I'm someone that I believe 100% you have to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
And I saw Luciera. She's the main coach for all the Miss USA contestants. And she lives in New York. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to work with her. So I did work with her. And she gave me a super amazing wake-up call, because she was like, girl, please realize what you're walking into right now. She's like, there's not some little pageant. These are girls that have been doing this since they were little. These are girls that are models as well. These are girls that will eat you alive. And I'm like, okay, thank you for that. So I had to do a lot of, self-investing. And I really connected with her, because even though part of me was resentful about the conversations, because I was like, I didn't want to hear that stuff. I wasn't gonna be able to be Miss New York. My head was huge, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna wear the crown. It's gonna be me.
Right.
No, it wasn't me, but I loved the entire experience. And then when I saw it on Instagram. She was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be this guest speaker. I didn't even look at the poster for more than 10 minutes, and I bought a ticket. And I bought the best ticket, because like I said, investing in yourself. I was like, oh, look, an extra workshop, refine your skills. Yeah. I was like, I'm going to go all in. Never been to Cali. Didn't know how I was going to get here. Didn't know where I was going to stay. Didn't know nothing about Cali. And now I'm here in Cali.
Nice.
So yeah, pretty
Welcome
much
to Cali.
just
Welcome to
going with the
Cali.
intuition. And
Yeah.
thank you. I loved it so far.
Nice. So Anthony, just from your time in Cali, you guys been there about a week or so, less than a week. I know we were just kind of talking behind the scenes a little bit, but could you just share a little bit of the conversation we were having right before this was about asking people the question of like, who are you?
Oh,
Right. And
it's a crazy question.
really deep. And I know we were talking about, I had an experience where, I did an experiment with people I led, asking them, hey, who are you? And out of the 23 people, only 2 people really knew it. And then I know you were sharing a story where you asked a gentleman and they kind of like froze in a sense. Can you just give our listeners just a snippet of who Anthony is?
That's a great question. Who is Anthony? And I don't want to say that I'm struggling with that answer, but I'm definitely on a road of discovery for that answer. And a lot has changed in, I would say 3 years, you know what I mean? Maybe 4 years, right? Like 2020, 2021. I mean, from, I was like 168 pounds, maybe 170 pounds of like BMI downhill, like no exercise, not working out, not eating right. This was like kind of COVID era. So this is like not even working, you know what I mean? Because I don't know if you guys remember that whole, everybody remembers and we all know what happened, right?
We all.
Anyways, so, no job, not really exercising, not really doing anything, and just kind of like staying home. And I was just in a bad place, like physically and mentally.
Yeah.
It was bad. And then little by little, we met during this time. So I guess you met me at my worst, which is
there you go.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign right there, right? And then and I'll just cut it to the chase, and I'll say there's probably like 2 things that pretty much like changed my life's trajectory. And I'll say it's like eating right. And we became vegan. And I hate saying the word vegan sometimes because vegan just has like this stigmatism. And it's just weird when you say that. I would like to say that I started caring about my health and what I started ingesting into my body.
Okay.
Because it doesn't mean that I just stopped eating meat. It means that I stopped eating like food that isn't organic, for example, or taking Tylenol. You know what I mean? Like just even taking things like that are going to have negative side effects.
Yeah.
So just doing things like that. And then I did some like psychedelic therapy.
There you go.
And I gotta say, I don't know if that's an off-limit topic or not. Okay.
This is your story.
But so those 2 things pretty much changed my trajectory. And now ever since those 2 things happened, I'm on this discovery path of who I really am.
Yeah.
So to answer that question, maybe I don't know yet.
Be
You know what I mean?
No,
To
yeah.
be continued.
I
Yeah.
think it's important that we recognize the things that can take us to that next level, right? Whether they are the uncommon things that people talk about or live, if it works for you and helping you get to your next level, I think that's the important piece of it.
Yeah.
Right.
So Glenn and I actually linked back up probably when I was going through the same thing you were talking about when you met her, right? Like I was in the middle of a divorce. The people that I was working with at the time had like done some shady stuff, and like and we were a really close team. So like now I can't trust people I spend 8 hours around. My kids are going through it. So I have 3 biological kids. They're going through it because now their mom and I are getting divorced. So that's like a whole thing, and they're pretty much blaming it all on me. So like as a father, like I'm dealing with that, right? And I remember like talking to my wife now and saying like, I don't know what I like to do for fun. I don't. Like when you ask me like, hey, what it's like now I know, right? Like now, like G always says this whenever I'm doing the camera stuff. He's like, yo, you really enjoy this. And I'm like, I think this is my happy. That's why I really enjoy the podcasting thing, right? It's like, I think this is what I enjoy. And so, but to get there is like, I used to sit down and be like, well, if someone asks me, what do I like? Like now it's an awkward question because I'm like, I don't know. I work, I recruit for the military. Like I'm a dad, and they're like, "No, but what do you like to do?" And I'm like, "I don't know, eat food because I'm an emotional eater." Sushi, dog.
I think everyone relates to that one.
But yeah, so no, I feel that for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And, I feel like that's why I had a battle with that whole Miss New York thing, because it was like, okay, who the heck are you? Why should you represent our state? Why should you be a representative of our establishment? Like, who are you? And I was like, okay, I gotta figure this out. And it was about the same time frame as well, that 3-year time frame. I also was in like a completely different world. I like to say, like, the person I am today is nowhere near the person I was, even last week, like in different person.
There's growth every day.
Yes, every single day. But just, I look back at pictures and I'll like pull up a picture of myself maybe like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and I'll show it to people. They'll be like, "That's not you." And I'm like,
oh my God, can you do that in the podcast? Can you do that in post? Like, put the little picture?
If you send it to us, we'll tell the
so fire.
Check it out. When she says this person, we need you to put that picture up.
No, legit. And then I think about, like, all the things I used to do, like the hobbies I used to have. Like, if you would have asked that person, like, what do you like to do? Go out, smoke hookah with my friends, maybe go get drunk. I like going to raves. I still like going to raves, though. Don't drink and smoke anymore.
There you go.
Makes a difference,
It does.
Also loved food, but my food was cakes, cookies, pastries, candy, just processed sugar. Super high on processed sugar all the time. And then now it's like, I love traveling. I love, just walking on a hike, even if I'm by myself. I love reading. Guys, I lied about my reading log since I could learn how to lie. I don't even know how to explain it to you guys. Like, I never read. I cheated on all my spelling tests. So even now, when I see the growth, and even when I have conversations, like, sometimes I want to use words that I don't even know exist yet.
Yeah.
And it's just because my vocabulary is not where it should be, for like my level of expertise in certain things. But it's just because, I set myself back by not putting in the work before. And now I'm kind of like playing catch up with where I want to be, and just asking myself all those questions of like, okay, who do you want to be, 10 years from now? Who do you want to be remembered as? There's a book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Read it. If you never read it, read it. And there's an exercise in there. It says, look, if you were to go to a funeral right now, you see everyone you love there. You look them in the face. They have sorrow. They're really in pain. And then you go to the casket and you look, and it's yourself. Like, what would these people say about you? What would your best friend say? What would your wife or husband say? What would your mom say? Like, what would your coworkers say? What would people who don't know you but know about you say? And I did that exercise so many times. And it kind of fell into like similar categories all the time, but it's always getting like redefined just because I'm learning more and I'm growing every day, and it's helped me to just make better choices because I'm not, out here smoking hookah every day anymore. Not out here drinking anymore, just doing things that I know are going to bring joy to not only myself, but I think about other people too.
Right. Yeah. I think so. Both of you guys in some way, shape, or form kind of talked about this 3 years ago and what your life looked like.
Yeah.
And it seems like there's been some significant growth. And
100%.
And you guys both met each other at a very interesting time. What were some of the things that helped you guys grow, or that you could maybe share about Alyssa, and Alyssa share about what you've seen in Anthony, as far as you recognizing that you guys were at this point, and then you both wanted to get to that next level. What did that support look like?
Okay, you want to start, or
I want you to explain that again. What you're really looking for.
So 3 years ago, you guys were at a level. Both of you guys said that there's been growth.
Yes.
Now there are people right now who are currently stuck in
that place.
Right? And so you guys being together, kind of like seeing the growth in each other. What are some things that stood out to you?
Yeah.
Right. Because some people were like, we face adversity and then we go the opposite way. But you guys faced adversity and pushed through the barriers to grow.
Right.
And you guys you could see it.
Right.
right in the midst of it. So now looking back 3 years ago to today, what are some of the things that you could, share that inspired you to keep going, looking at Alyssa and vice versa?
That's a great question. I think that one thing that helped me out a lot is that I let go.
Mm.
I let go. That was beast.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's- I'm gonna use some slang. I'm gonna use some East Coast
For sure. Make me
flavor.
feel at
He's from
home.
Philly,
Yeah,
Make me feel at
I'm
home.
gonna be a little
He'll
East
tell
Coast
me
with it,
later.
but for sure that was one of the keys was letting go. And I remember in one conversation we were having, and we were in my room. We're just having a conversation, and eventually it just stumbled upon me almost just confessing like what happened to me in the past. And not to get too deep into it, but there was everybody goes through their traumas and everything and different issues, but there was, for mine specifically, it was like a domestic violence within the home.
Yeah.
So as a young kid, it was difficult to grasp the fact that I was powerless.
Mhm.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's deep. It's a little deep. It's
appreciate
a
it.
little,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We go a little deep. So being able to like let that go is very important. And everybody had, that's like my specific story. It's like, domestic violence and feeling as a young kid powerless to like take on someone that's maybe like hurting your mother, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to be able to let go.
Oh yeah.
Because if not, you run around with like this chip on your shoulder. And sometimes you don't even know it's there.
Yeah.
That's the worst
It's
part.
poking you and you don't even know what it is.
You don't even know what it is. Like you're just running around life, not even knowing like this is happening, yet you're kind of adjusting yourself to it. And a good way to visualize this is like, say if you're walking, for example, if you're walking in a home, and I don't know if you've ever had like wood floors, and sometimes you get like a little splinter if you're walking barefooted.
Yeah.
Like you get this little splinter, and instead of pulling out the splinter because it hurts,
Yeah.
you kind of like wrap like a little Band-Aid or something over it just to cushion it out.
Yeah.
And then it starts hurting a little more. It gets a little swollen. So instead of fixing the swollen issue, you kind of like get bigger shoes. So now, you see what I'm saying? So now you got a wrap on your foot. You got bigger shoes. And now it's becoming difficult to walk. So you're tripping over stairs. So you're kind of like walking with a little walking cane.
Yeah.
And you're adding all these like crutches and making your life difficult because you didn't want to deal with the initial pain of just pulling out the splinter.
Yeah.
And that's my visualization of like, you have to let go. Like you have to pull out your splinters that you have. And that, I feel like that's something people should take with them. Like you need to find your splinter. You need to find what you need to let go, whatever it is, let it go. And then you can progress and move forward.
And to think you almost left to go get coffee.
I was gonna get. I mean, you saved the day. Man. We have.
That's what
So
we
for
do.
all
We
y'all
provide.
watching, you're welcome.
No,
Yeah,
now for
so-
you.
Yeah, legit. So, okay. How I mentioned earlier about like the reading, the vocabulary thing. Anthony has helped me a lot with communication because as you can see, he's a very strong communicator.
Yes.
And one of the things that I always felt like I, just wasn't heard. I wasn't, someone that was understood. And for me, like all my interests, right? I do modeling, I do acting, love hosting, I love talking to people, but I didn't start out this way. I really had to just do it over time and get comfortable doing it. So definitely putting myself in uncomfortable situations is something I do a lot. Because another way to put this same exact analogy is just, having forgiveness. And there's been a lot of things in my life, just that are the hazards of being a human being. Everyone goes through their own issues. I had to learn to forgive other people because instead of me sitting here and putting blame on, well, my parents didn't check my homework when I was a kid, or, they were too busy working. They didn't have time to like spend time with me as a kid, or, Sally pushed me in school, so I was too busy crying about that to do my homework. I could come up with every excuse in the
My
book.
dog gave me homework. We don't have a dog.
No, every excuse. But if I'm over here like not taking responsibility and I don't do the work and I don't, just forgive the fact that it happened, because things are going to happen. Life is going to test you every day.
Yep.
And if you just don't take it personal,
Right.
it becomes easier to move forward. And I wasn't like this overnight either. It's there's a term that my mentor uses. It's called spaced repetition.
Mm.
So this is how habits are formed. It's not that, like, let's say for example, you set a goal to go to the gym. It's not that you have to go every day for 30 minutes and do the same exact exercise to get stronger. Yeah, you could do it that way, but most people are like, they think about their schedule, they think about their life. They're like, I can't do that. That's too much commitment. You don't have to do it that way, as long as you continue to choose.
Yeah.
Continue to choose over a long period of time, and eventually you're just going to be a natural at it. And another aspect of that was really caring about myself. And it's not that I didn't care about myself before, because in my mind I was like, I'm doing my hair every day, I'm doing my makeup, I'm wearing the cutest clothes, I look fabulous,
And
but
like, yeah, there
inside,
she is.
how do I feel?
Yeah.
Just doing check-ins with yourself. How do you really feel? Most people, they don't even know,
No.
because they're so busy numbing. And what's the most popular numbing right now? Scrolling on social media,
Yep.
eating
That
food,
desk scrolling.
doing drugs. And when I say drugs, it's like, yeah, alcohol counts as a drug. Smoking cigarettes counts as a drug. Playing video games, watching TV all day. There's a whole list and slew of activities that we put our time and energy into that do not develop us as a person. And then we wonder why we are 10 years later down the line in the same spot. And it's like, when were you doing the work?
Yeah.
And that's another, from that book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He gives you the quadrant. Okay, there's things that are for entertainment purposes. Yeah, we could do it sometimes, but it's like, if you're not doing the things that are really going to develop you, you're kind of just wasting your own time.
Yeah. I wanted to piggyback off something that you said, and it was like, you're getting into like the victim mentality
Yeah.
and taking accountability.
Yeah.
I feel like that is huge. Like I that is so big. And for a long period of time in my life, I remember being upset, like if my dad was rich, or if my mom showed me this, or if I didn't live in the Bronx, I would be here, I would have this, I would be good. And that is just the worst way to think. Like it will get you literally nowhere. If anything, it will set you back further than you already are.
Yeah.
Like if you can just take, and we all understand that a lot of people are put into situations that are unfair or maybe not the best, right? In quotes.
Yeah.
That's everybody. Like for me, it was like, I grew up in the Bronx with a single mother, you know what I mean? Like welfare, you know what I mean? And now, I'm traveling around the world and making a 6-figure income and taking care of my family.
Yep.
So like, there's no excuse. Like if you just take accountability and just try to say everything is your fault, even when it's not.
Yeah.
Because it's never really always going to be your fault.
Yeah.
But if you just say, no matter what, it's my fault.
Yeah.
My bad. I did that. Let me do this. Now you are able to take an action to fix it or to go further.
Yeah.
So when you was talking about that, I really felt the victim mentality thing,
And that's a piece so I've never personally gone through like the 12-step program, but I have friends who have had, and people I care about, and like those are 2 things that they've talked about. Is one, you have to take responsibility even when you don't want to.
Right.
Like I have friends who are like, when this thing happened to me, it would be so easy for me to say like it's my mom's fault or my dad's fault or whatever, but like they would have to write letters to them apologizing for their piece of whatever that trauma was. And I was like, bro, like I can't even imagine like your hand shaking as you're trying to apologize for something that you're like, this happened to me though. Why am I apologizing to you? And then the second thing is resentments. Someone I care about, I use that word, and she was like, I've never heard anybody outside of like the 12-step program use that, because I was talking about how I'm trying to acknowledge like what's happening to me and the resentments I'm building behind the mask, right?
Mhm.
And I try and stay aware of those things always, even when in my mind when I'm upset. I'm like, I'm saying like crazy stuff, right? Like I've had times where I'm like mad at G in my head. I'm like, oh no, and I'm like, no, and I tell in my head, I'm like, we're not doing that today. You're just hungry. You're a little tired. Stop it, and then it goes away.
Right.
But like a lot of people, like the accountability piece, like you guys are talking about, though, like you have to be able to say that I'm just doing too much in this moment.
Can I add something
Yeah.
too?
No,
one
you
of
can't.
the way to phrase that is like the stories you tell yourself.
Yep.
You know, it's like, okay, am I gonna constantly repeat the same limiting beliefs that are keeping me right here in this space, or am I gonna change the story? Am I going to say that, you know, my efforts here are worthless? You know, nobody cares about me, and you know, my life sucks, and just keep repeating to yourself till it's true.
Yeah.
Or you can be like, you know what, things don't look too great right now, but they're getting better. You know, I can see, you know, maybe next month, next week, you know, I have this opportunity that is going to really make me feel good, and just even just focus, like change where your focus is. Like you only have two eyes, and unless you're cockeyed, they don't go left and right. Okay, they're usually on focus in the same direction.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on the things that you don't like, or are you focusing on the things you want and love? Like you can only choose one. So choose the story that's gonna help you feel good.
I remember a few episodes. Actually, maybe it was season 1. Cam and I do we communicate with our kids, you know, obviously as much as we can. And I remember my at the time 10-year-old and my 6-year-old, you know, wrote on the mirror. I used to write quotes on the mirror for them.
Nice.
And one in particular, you know, to one of your points, it was like, you know,
That's
if
good.
you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. Right. And this was like, you know, if we're looking for change, right, it first starts here. We have to be able to see what that next version of ourselves looks like, right? To be able to act on it, right? Because if I can see it, and then if I can believe it, I should be able to achieve it, right? And like you mentioned, like what you look like today is not overnight; it's a process. And I think that we sometimes forget or want that microwave effect of like, man, I want to do this, I want to get to my next level, but I don't see the change. But sometimes the change that we don't see outside is really being changed internally.
Right.
And I think that if we can pause enough to recognize the 1% growth within ourselves, you know, we'll look back and be like, man, like a year ago, I wasn't here, right? Like, you know, a year ago where we're at right now, we weren't here, right? The storms were happening, you know, and we had some internal work to do, right, in order to get to that next level. And then now you're at the next level, and it's like it's never stopped. Like being that lifelong learner is very important, and that's something that we're communicating to our families and our business partners, and you know, just being that lifelong learner. And so anyway, to you said something that sparked that thought, and I wanted to just kind of add to the conversation.
I hear you.
I used to be excited about the mirror message. I'm like, what was the message this morning? We always talk in the morning, and I'm like, what's the message? He's like, oh, it's this. And I'm like, all right, bet. Yeah. And that became like, so it's like, as people know, it's like as you talk about positivity, it becomes infectious.
That is true.
You know.
And okay, so the name of my, like, I call it a community because I don't really think of it as a business. It's more of like a passion. Yeah. It's called Intentions of Light, right? Yeah. And you know, whether or not you are a religious person, but you can just kind of sense that there's this greater power, right? Even when you get around people, there's usually an energy you feel. And one thing that I've learned over this time, right, because we both spoke about coming from dark places in our life, that light is stronger than dark. If you have one little candle in a super black room, you're going to see that candle, you know, and it's going to overtake all of that darkness. So when you become the light you want to see in other people, it's kind of like it just spreads. It spreads and spreads and spreads, you know? And definitely, like, being a lifelong learner is so important because we have to all understand that there's so much we don't know. Even going beyond like, oh my God, there's outer space, and there's like there's the one thing I always think of is like, yeah, I'm sitting right here in California with you guys, but there's a whole other world going on in India, in Egypt, in freaking Australia. My whole family is having a whole life right now in New York. But it's to my own existence. I wouldn't know a thing about it, you know. Like we have to humble ourselves and kind of separate ourselves from, you know, our thoughts, and understand that, you know, our thoughts aren't always true. You know, there's another great book. It's called As a Man Thinketh, and he gives an analogy of like your mind is like a soil, right? And it doesn't care what you plant. You could plant whatever you want. You want to plant negativity, you want to plant positivity, it's going to grow. A weed grows the same way grass grows, the same way the tree grows, same way a flower grows. But you're the gardener. Think about what you want in your garden. Think about how you want it to look. Think about, you know, what fruit you want to eat later on when the harvest comes in. And then guess what? If you don't like the fruit, start from the root, right? Start cleaning it out. Start thinking about, okay, how do I want this to look in the future? You know?
I feel like, not to get religious, you know.
You can do whatever you want, Anthony.
Not everybody's religious. So just understand, you know, believe in what you believe in. But I would say even some of that stuff comes like from the Bible and just like from church, which is like the power of the tongue. You know what I mean? Like just little small things, and just what you were saying reminded me of like faith. Like church is so big on his having faith. And even if you take the church out of it and you take God out of it, you still need to have faith.
Correct.
You still need to have faith in everything that you're doing. Like this right here, this is faith. Like this is belief that this podcast will be whatever it can be. Bigger than Joe. You know what I mean?
We're coming for you, Joe.
We're coming for you, Joe. I'm coming for you. Nah, Joe's the GOAT. You got it. But you know what I mean? It's just like the faith is here. Like you have faith that you're gonna find great guests. That next episode's you're gonna be able to get that person on, that you get the next best equipment, this and this. And it's like you guys have to believe that is true before it happened. Because a couple minutes ago you was talking about last year that it wasn't like this. And you was in a storm.
We was in the living room.
If y'all didn't believe during that storm, you probably would have got swept away. You would have been gone. You know? And it's just, I think that's one of the keys you were talking about, is like you really have to have faith, and it's very powerful. Very powerful.
So you said something. I'll share my very first thought this morning when I got out of the bed, and I just stood there literally for 10 seconds. And I was reminded of, walk by faith, not by sight. Walk by faith, not by sight. Walk by faith, not by. And I said it to myself three times. And so, you know, I'm a firm believer that, you know, things happen for a reason, but the timing of when they happen for a reason. And I don't know why that thought was the first thought. I don't know why you said it, but you guys mentioned something about our guests, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I will say is that very rarely have we chosen our guests. I feel like our guests have been attracted to us. And in the conversation, the spark was like, we got to have them on the podcast. Right? Very rarely do we go try to, all right, let me go find this person, or what does our next guest look like? And we just, you know, walking by faith, not by sight.
Right.
Because we can go see the person we want to sit in these chairs. But going back to the faith piece, I think our faith is so strong that we know that we will continue to provide that value through the people who sit in there. And we don't have to go seek them, because we'll attract each other. So.
Hey, like attracts like, right?
Yeah,
guys?
100%. 100%.
So as we're kind of transitioning out, so talking about value in the light, let's talk about the things that you're doing for like your community, like you said. So like, how did it start? You know, like what storms have you gone through with that? Because I know building a community, we have a friend of ours, Terry, who he has a community as well. And like, you know, we hear about the ups and the downs and the especially as you go through COVID.
Right.
You know, so tell us about that.
Wow. Unlike most people, I loved COVID. I got a car for myself. There was no traffic. I was traveling out of the country. I kind of didn't let it affect me at all. And one of the things that I took out was like all news, all media. I detoxed from TV.
Yeah, you had to.
And my parents, like, they would tell me like, oh my God, I didn't get vaxxed, guys. I didn't. I'm gonna be honest with you guys.
Yeah.
They're like, you didn't get vaxxed. And I was working too. And my job is a party entertainer. I was around kids all day. Like people were still having birthday parties. Like, they didn't care.
Sure.
I wore a mask, but it's like, really, like, whatever. And in reality, like, I was like, okay, this isn't working for me. I've always had a love for acting. Modeling, I wasn't confident in myself yet because my appearance, I didn't look this way before. I was a little bit heavier, and then just the relationships I was in, you could just see it on my face. I was not a happy person.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna start a business. You know, everyone was on TikTok showing all their things, and my bridge was resin art. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Resin.
Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
I was like, oh my God, this looks so fun. Like I could do this. So I started making rolling sets because I wasn't smoking weed at the time.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, I can make the tray. You know, I made like a Dragon Ball theme. I made like
if you could see yourself,
yeah.
Yeah,
I made
right?
a Kobe Bryant themed one. I made so many, so many. And then over time, I was like, this shit is not sustainable. I do not want to sit here making resin for people and like they're giving me their money, so I have to do it. So it wasn't fun anymore.
Yeah.
And then when I thought of the idea, I was like, okay, this is like something that is like a little piece of me because I'm making it. I'm the artist, right? And my name is Luz. It's light in Spanish. And I was like, okay, it's like light of your life, like a little love, right? A little piece of love. And I was like, okay, this is gonna be shop light of your life, and you can order, you know, like a gift for somebody because I'm a gift giver. Like that's something I love to do. I love getting something for someone, and it's so unexpected, and they're just like, oh my God, this is so cool. I love that feeling. And then when I got out of my terrible relationship before Anthony, and also kind of had a realization that I didn't like who I was.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like this is time to revamp everything in my life, including my business. And it kind of transitioned from me selling art to me just, you know, talking about that journey that I went through because I changed my health. And then of course, most people think of just like changing your diet or maybe exercising more, but it was 100% spiritual change, 100% mental change, like everything that, you know, I was into, I was no longer into. And it's like, okay, but now what? And I started reading. That was like a number one change for me because like you really are what you ingest. It's not just what you eat, but like everything you intake, you become that. And like I started different mentors and people to look up to that were talking, you know, the language that I was looking for. Because like, yeah, you know, I go back home and I could listen to reggaeton all day or just listen to freaking Chris Brown. What do you really think about that? And I just changed everything that I was thinking to change who I became, like who I was. And intentions of life kind of just bringing who I am now to other people. And it's not about me, it's just about that you need to take responsibility for who you are because it affects others. And that's really like, you know, just a life principle that everyone needs to figure out in a way. Like you need to kind of figure out like, why are you here? Because everyone is here for a reason. I see the world as like a giant puzzle piece, like a giant puzzle, right? And it makes up Earth, and everyone is a piece of that puzzle. And when people aren't doing what they are meant to do, it's like we see things like war, we see things like famine, we see things like hate, and people are probably like, oh, I don't have that much impact, but you do. You know, you're part of the earth, you're part of the entire collective. And I discovered all this stuff too. Like I said earlier, there's just things we don't know about. Until you know, then you can't unknow it. But it's like now once you know, what are you gonna do about it? And I really wanted to bring together other people who are on the same kind of wavelength as me, because upon asking all these questions, like, what do I do now? Where do I go from here? And finding, you know, my mentors, my community, I was like pushed into directions to meet the people that were meant for me. Right. And now we are working on a project. It's called Plant Parenthood.
I saw that.
Yeah. So my friend and I, we are plant-based, and we started doing like a cooking group because a lot of people, when they hear we're vegan, they're like, what do you eat? So I'm like, dude, I eat good.
You know, Skittles are vegan. Like you can eat Skittles. Like it's
what,
just
what?
yeah, I swear. Like Skittles
like,
and
no,
Pepsi
we
is
don't do
vegan.
that. We don't
So it's
do
like
that.
you can't really use that word anymore because now It can
Yeah,
mean anything. You know what I mean?
it's not. We go plant based now because it's like, okay, plants,
makes
and
sense.
then it's
Yeah.
fruits and vegetables. People are a little less confused.
That is true.
But we eat good. We're Puerto Rican women. Like, we know how to cook. We know how to use spices.
Yeah.
And we were teaching people virtually, and it was kind of like a free venture, just anybody that was interested, they could take part in it. And then I wanted to go beyond that, and because, like I said, it has nothing to do with how you eat and exercise.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with how you think. And this whole community of other women that are on the same path, and they have children, they have experienced both sides of, like, being part of the culture and doing the norm that people think is okay, and then now they're living this healthier lifestyle, this more holistic lifestyle, and kind of just bringing all of it together so people feel more comfortable taking this approach.
Yeah.
Because it has a stigma around it. It really
For sure.
does, and it is so life changing if you just take away the assumptions of what you don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
Because knowing about something is not the same as knowing something.
Right.
It's like, until you do it, you don't know it.
Yeah.
Can we ask you guys, what do you guys even think about that? Like the plant-based vegan thing? 'Cause it's like a whole trendy, I feel like it's a trendy thing now. And like,
But it's not a
I don't know how
coincidence
people
that it's
really
a trend
think.
now. It's really not. It's like people are becoming aware that, hey, we can't. Like, how are people dying at 70?
Yeah.
People in the Bible used to live to like 900.
Yeah.
And I know maybe that's like a stretch, some people's minds are like, no way. But it's like, really think about it. How are people, by the time they're 50, they need like a gastric bypass surgery?
Yeah,
Like,
I hear
what?
that. That's true.
That don't make sense.
Yeah.
That don't make
Sure.
no sense.
Yeah. So my wife does work.
Yeah.
And so when we got together, I started also then eliminate, right? And although we may not be religious in that sense, we go to church and stuff like that.
Right.
My wife has read the Bible through and through. And she's like, if you look in the Bible, it tells you what you should and should not eat. He's like, in retrospect, like, and this book has been around for how long?
Hello.
Whether you want to acknowledge the religion or not,
Right.
this book has been around for thousands of years, and it tells you what you should ingest into your body. And so I was like, okay, that makes sense. And so obviously you can't follow everything, but in general respect, like, I had friends who were vegan, and although I do like meat, I was just like, but I'm not against it. Like, I'll eat vegan stuff all the time, like,
Right.
or plant-based, whatever, right?
Everyone does,
Yeah,
though.
everyone
Y'all
does.
all
They
eat
don't
rice
even
and
realize
beans.
it. And so, but it was pretty cool, like how the way that you can mix things to be just like things that we maybe thought, like cheese.
Right.
You know, what is it? Nutritional yeast
Right.
is like a big thing.
Yeah.
They use cashews too
Or cashews as
sometimes,
well.
like,
So, like,
right?
our friends were
Yeah.
doing that, right? So they were like, hey, they would do a vegan dinner night.
Yeah.
So they introduced us to like more stuff. And this was like years ago, but no, I mean, me and G, we're always talking about keeping our mind open. And same thing with our kids. Like, funny enough, like one of my daughters prefers vegetables over fruits.
Good
I don't know
for
how
her.
it happened
Good for
because
her.
it used to be a whole
Shout
thing.
out to her.
It used to be a whole thing. But
Some kids prefer chicken McNuggets.
correct. But it's the habits that you teach, right? So for instance, like, when I got divorced, there is now 2 different households, 2 different sets of rules, 2 different mindsets, things like that. And my wife really brought like fruits, vegetables, and cleaner eating into our lives. And it was a struggle for a long time. I mean, my son would sit at the table and cry for 45 minutes because I wouldn't let him get up till he ate his piece of broccoli. Now, he may not like it. Yo, it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing.
I felt it. I was there. I hear that.
But now, although he may not like it, he will eat it and get it over with.
Right.
And I tell him, I'm like, hey, man, do the hardest thing you have to do, and everything else will be easy.
Right.
So now it's like he's lightweight, one of the first people to be done now. And even it's cool to see his siblings like, yo, good job, Mateo. Like, a month ago, you'd be the last person at the table, and now you're done with your vegetables. You ate all your food, or at least you ate the important things. Like, I'm real big on, you don't have to eat all the rice or noodles or whatever, but you got to eat the proteins and the vegetables or fruit that's on your plate. That's what's important.
Right.
And so, no, I mean, we're not against it. I'm not. But it's cool, and I applaud you guys like for doing that, because at least in my opinion, you have to get creative a lot. I feel like it's the easy way out can be like just throw a piece of chicken in something,
right,
rather than like, okay, now I need to get creative with like, how am I going to get the additional nutrients that I need?
Right.
Yeah.
And
keep it like, and spice it up, right?
Yeah.
Like, can eat black beans every day.
Yeah, I hear you.
you were gonna add?
Yeah. So to the question, the last 5 minutes, you guys kind of took me back to when I first met my wife into like back present. And so when I first met, her name's Tegan. When I first met Tegan, I don't think I've ever met anyone that ate more vegetables, or, just ate well. Not like when I grew up.
I'm like, Tegan gonna be mad at you. I'm gonna tell her you eat the lunch in my house. I'm gonna tell her.
But it's interesting because I feel like, for me, my wife in particular and my 10-year-old or my 11-year-old now really inspired me to think about in this season, to think about more about what as a family what we're.
Right.
And so one of Cam's point when you talk about we're open. For me, I want to be around as long as I can. And I know, part of that conversation is like, gee, as much as you grew up on cheesesteaks and fried foods, and et cetera, like I'm more aware now of partly still guilty for eating, but I'm more aware of thinking about the dessert, right? And trying to detox and like I'm thinking about, okay, how can I get better? How can I deal with this internally so that like I go back to thinking it, how can I be more action based on it?
Right.
Don't just think about wanting to be healthy, right? Like do it, right? Because
100%.
we try to talk about being doers more, right? So it's like, okay, I can't pick and choose what I choose to leave my house on, right? How I plan on instilling these principles, but I don't do it in all areas. So that's something as a man, as a father, as a leader of my home, that's what I'm focused on right now, is making those small adjustments, not using the excuse like, well, I grew up eating whatever, or this is all I knew, right? But like, because I'm being challenged in a good way without my wife and 11-year-old saying it, like I want to be more supportive, help them go back, because now my wife is eating chocolate chip cookies because of me, right? So now it's like, okay,
Chocolate chip cookies is good.
Yeah, exactly. When we talk about marrying up, that whole thought came into my mind to the conversation. Like, okay, you say you married up. These were the things that attracted you, right? Because you weren't used to it. So let's get back to it, right? Let's get back to building on the foundation,
Right.
so that you can be a greater you,
Right.
so you can be more value to the family, and that just becomes a domino effect.
Right.
100%.
So thank you guys for bringing this conversation to the table.
Thank you for allowing us.
100%. And just before we get off the food topic, and I like to compare it sometimes like to drugs, and it might sound crazy, but some people do, like a good way to see it is like weed brownies.
Yeah.
People eat weed brownies, right? Like they put, it's like, look, it's a brownie, you eat it, chew it up, swallow, goes down to the digestive system, and kind of like whatever the acids break it down, right? And it goes in, and then that enters your bloodstream, and then maybe 45 minutes later, goes through your blood, it hits your brain, and now you high.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the same concept for everything you put in your body.
100%.
If you put a chicken nugget in your mouth, it's gonna go through that same process. You're gonna chew it down, you're gonna bring it in, it's gonna break it down. The gases are gonna go up, it's gonna hit the bloodstream, and it's gonna go to your brain. So everything you put in your body really does matter. You know what I mean? Especially food. If you put that McDonald's, Big Mac in your body, and 5 minutes later you feel like, oh, this is the best feeling ever. Maybe you even ate it right in the car sometimes. You got right in the drive-thru, ate it. You in a car like this, you even leave the parking lot. That's the best, And it's like, that's the same process. Maybe the chemical reaction and the feelings a little different might make you feel not as high as a weed brownie per se, but it's the same concept of everything you put it in, like pork or whatever it is that you choose. So it's just, even if I feel like you don't go plant-based or vegan or whatever the case may be, like look for grass-fed beef and all these kind of there's ways to do it. Like I personally feel like if I had a bow and arrow and I can go and like shoot an elk, you know what I mean, or like something like just like lean meat, skin it and cook it myself on a plate, I'll eat it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But in the city, I mean, we don't. It's really hard to do that in the city.
What you doing with that bow and arrow?
I don't think I can even walk through the streets with a bow and arrow. So I choose to go this route because it's just the best way to stay as healthy as I could be right now. So I guess it all is different. It's not anti-meat. It's not it's just put what's best into your body and really look at what's going in,
Yeah.
because
And
it
our kids
matters.
listen.
Yeah.
My daughter recently, what is she? I gave her something. I think I got like some Lara bars. They're like 5 ingredients, whatever. She was like, "Oh, Dad, like I can read all these ingredients."
Yes.
Hello.
And I was like,
That's great. I
yeah.
love that. That's so great. I mean, even the other day, like we were just on the road. We're driving 3-4 hours straight, which is really nothing. We stop by places, we look around, there's nothing really there that we can get. So we're like, get a water. It's like, oh man. We're in like the desert pretty much driving for a few hours. So we're just running back and forth, and we found a spot and they had like potato chips, and we're like, bro, we're not gonna eat no potato chips. But we turned it around and we looked at it and it was like, we could eat some chips. What's the big deal? Just a bag of chips. We turn it around and it's just, potatoes, avocado oil, and like some sea salt or something like that. It was like 3 ingredients.
Yeah.
And it's just like that alone is like, chips. Don't always eat a bag of chips. I'm not saying you, but it's okay to eat a bag of chips, especially when it's getting cooked in avocado oil, which is,
Were they the Bolter chips?
I don't remember the brand
It's
or
an
the
Hispanic
names.
brand.
It was some
Yeah.
Hispanic brand. I never really even seen it
They
before,
make
but
good cookies too.
Okay, bet.
it was
Okay,
nice to see that. It's like, you have organic ingredients, they're using, if they're frying something, which you shouldn't really eat fried food, but if they're using a oil that just is less like, it's just the chemicals that break down from heat.
Yeah.
It's pretty much how it goes. The simplest way to put it. So if they're using different ingredients like that, it's better for you to eat.
It's
you know
not
what
a
I mean?
hydrogenated oil.
It's not late yet. It's not Lay's. You know what I mean? That's the scientists
There you go.
to back me up.
So,
Boom. Back me up.
Yeah.
Love
So
that.
with Planned Parenthood, right? That's really what we go into. Like, there's so many documentaries we could watch. So many. These are government-funded research articles that are posted online. Okay, when you research stuff, I use Google Scholar, not Google, not Bing.
Oh yeah.
Google Scholar, because these are actual scientists that are doing actual studies, and these are what doctors use to, like, do research on their own, medical stuff.
Yeah.
And even going back to our kids, it's like we do realize that their brains are still developing, their bodies are still developing. If you look at the history of America, ever since like we've become industrialized, we've had a rise in cancer, a rise in obesity, a rise in all these issues that don't exist in other parts of the world virtually. Like, so it's just answering questions that parents don't even know that they have, and having the answers when they're ready to actually confront those issues, because we have to acknowledge that living in a modern city and society, these are the things we experience. Some people live in food deserts that all that is around them is fast food. But it's like, okay, so how do we become more sustainable? How do we really like plant a seed and let it grow? Like, there's just such simple things that go back beyond our own existence, that have been around for eons, but it's like it's kind of been lost in translation.
Yeah.
So all of the women I work with, they all have diverse skills in different areas, and we pretty much just want to be able to provide parents and just anyone that has interest in having a healthier life with support.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
IG, take
Love
us
that.
out, big dog.
Yes, sir. So, before we wrap up, I'll ask one last question.
Yeah.
Life, love, or leadership?
Mm-hmm.
If you guys could say what's on your heart, 60 seconds or less, pick one of those 3.
Okay.
So we're gentlemen on this platform, so we'll start with you.
Sure. For me, the first one is love, and that for me, love is synonymous with light, synonymous with God, synonymous with other people. So definitely starting with you and everything that you do to yourself. That's pretty much how others are gonna treat you and how you would treat others. So showing that love to yourself and showing love in everything you do will just transform your life. And also, love doesn't come from other things. It starts with you. Like, you bring the love to everything. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Mr. Anthony.
Big
What
dog.
would I choose? That's a good. I'm leaning on leadership, and it's going into the like trying to be a good man. And if you're a man, I'm just gonna speak for the guys out there. For the guys, at least for now, it's like you need to take ownership of your home and your space and be able to lead properly. Because even if you don't think it's happening, the people around you are looking at you and following your lead. Whether it's your nieces, your nephews, your sons, your daughter, your wife, they're gonna follow what you do. So if you want to sit down and watch, Sunday night football and drink a beer and, not go to the gym or not work that extra passion or eat Dorito chip, like they're watching this, even if you don't know it.
Yep.
And that's where you're leading your family.
Mm.
So, take ownership, take leadership, do the right thing, and the people in your house will follow.
Mm.
That's what I'll leave them with.
I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
buddy.
New York model, podcast host,
Yes.
mindset creator.
I'll take it.
From our platform, our team, we just want to say thank you guys for blessing us with your presence. From New York to ModelCon to the L3 Perspective.
It's an honor. It's an honor.
Yes.
Oh, and then last, let them know where to find you.
Mhm.
Oh, sure. If you guys are interested in anything that I've shared about, I share a lot on Instagram personally. I have the Intentions of Light Instagram. So Intentions of Light is LIGHT. And then you can follow me if you liked our conversation is Veggie Godmother. Veggie, Godmother, pretty much.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we'll put all of it in the comments for everybody as well.
Appreciate that.
But that being said, we appreciate you. Like, share, subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. We appreciate y'all listening, and see y'all later. Peace.
Bye.
So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is
I was afraid, I didn't know what to do. A lot of us be coming in it.
And what I'll say was amazing to me was
Season 2. Welcome back to the L3 Perspective. My name is Glenn Davis. As you know, I'm sitting here with my co-host, Cameron Macias.
Coach Cam.
L3 Perspective, as you know, we talk about life, love, leadership.
As we've talked about in the past, like, love, share, subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Because at the end of the day, we do it for you guys.